Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Here's some of the top stories we've been following. An Alberta couple has had charges dropped against them in connection with the death of their 19-month-old son. The Alberta government announced funding to support community-led research for undocumented deaths and burials at residential schools. And the state of emergency has been extended in BC. We will explain for how much longer.
Your nation. Your province. Your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. A stressful chapter for an Alberta couple has finally come to an end. The Crown has dropped charges against David and Colette Stephan. The couple was charged in the death of their 19-month-old son Ezekiel back in 2012. BCN's Naveen Day has the story.
It has been a long battle for the Stephans. Shortly after the death of their 19-month-old son Ezekiel, years of battling in court to prove their innocence ensued when they were charged with failing to provide the necessaries of life for their child. During their trials, the couple said they initially thought Ezekiel had croup and treated him with natural remedies. They called the paramedics when Ezekiel stopped breathing, and sadly the boy died a short time later. A jury convicted the couple in 2016, but the Supreme Court overturned their verdict and ordered a new trial. A judge found them not guilty in 2019. But the Alberta Court of Appeal granted a request by the Crown to overturn the acquittal and order a third trial. The Crown recently dropped the charges, and no reason was given for the decision, and Alberta Justice did not respond to a request to explain why. David Stephan says the reason may have to do with the credentials of the forensic pathologist that did the autopsy.
He's now in the States, and he's under credential fraud investigation in two separate states, the state of Kansas and the state of Indiana. Now, on top of that, he's got his own criminal proceedings coming against him as well, starting in September of this year, for drunk driving and injuring a woman. Now, that drunk driving incident took place 1 week after the initial investigation began for credential fraud. So he may not actually even be a doctor.
According to Stephan, his battle is far from over. He says he is returning to the Supreme Court to defend parental rights and parents' choice of care.
Innocent parents are now becoming criminals because of choice of care, because they had, maybe they favored natural medicine. Even though there's no case of neglect that can be established, it just comes down to whether or not they favored pharmaceutical medicine versus natural medicine or Ayurvedic medicine or whatever it may be. And so that doesn't make you a criminal here in Canada, but yet they've been attempting to do that, to establish that precedent.
Stephan reports that over the last 9 years, the ordeal has cost the couple well over $1.5 million to defend their case, but estimates the Crown spent about $10 million in public funds in pursuit of convicting the couple. For Bridge City News, I'm Naveen Day.
The Alberta government made a funding announcement today to support research into unmarked burial sites and undocumented deaths at residential schools across the province. Premier Jason Kenney says $8 million will go to supporting the initiative.
These grants will go to Indigenous organizations who will decide how best to do the research. We understand that in some cases there are members of impacted communities who may not want to disturb these grave sites for spiritual reasons. Instead, they may want to erect a permanent commemoration, or some may want to do full archaeological research that would require cooperation with technical experts and advanced scientific equipment. Whatever the choices they make, we will be there to support them with this $8 million fund.
Kenney says organizations can work to submit a research proposal for a single residential school site. Individual applications can receive up to $150,000. Applications will be accepted until January 15th of next year. The province is studying a new report on Alberta's helicopter emergency medical services. It outlines potential changes to the way emergency medical service responders work in our province. The suggestion would increase provincial funding for STARS' Air Ambulance budget from 23% to 50%. STARS would also become the #1 helicopter service provider for the entire province. David Shepherd, the NDP health critic for Edmonton City Centre, says Tyler Chandler and the UCP should have consulted more with local helicopter emergency services.
The community passion and support for organizations like Halo in the Medicine Hat area, Hero up around Fort McMurray, runs deep and runs strong. So I was really disappointed to see the report that came out, which essentially seems to suggest that Minister Shandro, the UCP, intend to abandon the province's relationship with these organizations, folks that have invested so much in their community, and frankly, that communities have invested in them. Incredible efforts to fundraise and to support to keep them flying. So it seems instead the UCP intends to double down on their plans to fully centralize emergency services across the province of Alberta.
In 2019 to 2020, STARS made over 1,250 rescue trips, which accounted for almost 93% of total missions here in the province. Currently, AHS provides close to $8.5 million per year to helicopter emergency medical services funding. Lethbridge's new logo design is receiving some mixed reviews, but local design businesses are unhappy that the contract was awarded to the Met Agency in Edmonton and not a local designer here in Lethbridge. Owner of Inspire Marketing and Media, Janelle Wensley, is disappointed that hers and other businesses in the city were not given an opportunity to bid on the project.
We have worked with the city a little bit already on past projects, so it seems kind of fishy to me that, the bids weren't sent out, because I have got them in the past. But yeah, just talking with some of the colleagues in the industry here in Lethbridge, nobody really got that proposal, and we would have loved to be able to contribute to that. So yeah, a little hurt. Just feeling, that we would like to support local, and I do it as much as I possibly can. So yeah, we just kind of wish that the city would do the same.
In a Facebook post, the city said that a procurement process was followed and that no local businesses responded. According to their website, the city is required to advertise bid opportunities on purchases of $75,000 or greater. The cost of the branding project was reportedly around $35,000. A new Lethbridge Language and Referral Centre opened on June 10th that will provide services free of charge for new immigrants. Clients will be helped with language assessment, making referrals for English classes, and providing support for education classes.
Lethbridge welcomes many immigrant families and immigrant individuals to the city. And what we're hoping to do is to really empower them to continue their education, advance on their English skills, and make sure that we can empower them to pursue any professional or educational goals they might have. Lethbridge is going to be seeing lots of new immigrant families joining over the next year, and we're here to support them and welcome them into the city.
The centre in Lethbridge has been fully booked for the past few weeks. Lethbridge is expecting to see record temperature highs around 36 to 38 degrees very soon. Now, there won't be a better time to jump in a pool to cool off. To help you beat the summer heat, Henderson Outdoor Pool will be reopening on Friday from noon till 7:30 with a capacity of around 350 people. Now, you need to pre-book your swim time on a first-come, first-served basis. General Manager with Recreation Excellence, Sunny Bell, says once Alberta enters Stage 3, current plans may change.
We're hoping the restrictions will be changing after July 1st. We are waiting for the public health order to be released prior to releasing what that looks like. We are really good at pivoting and making quick changes, so it's just really important for the public to check Facebook, to check the online schedules, and to continue to go through the information and update themselves. So we will also update the public as we make changes.
This year, Henderson Pool is introducing new aquatics options, including aqua jog, Zumba, and swimming lessons. Lethbridge residents may see a few changes when visiting a city park this year compared to last. That's because the city has to reduce the overall parks budget by $600,000 each and every year. Parks manager David Ellis says the 2021 budget reduction is affecting all areas in the Parks Department.
We'll notice effects on dryland mowing, so our roadside mowing will be reduced and it'll be delayed in what we've been used to in the past. Parks maintenance, including our pathways, garbage collection, and sports fields, there'll be some reductions there that'll impact people a little bit. One area that we'll probably see quite visual is our mulch beds. Won't be weeded as much, so there'll be weeds growing in and amongst the shrubs and the trees in those mulch beds. That's handwork, and that's one area where we are impacted is in the reduction of staff.
Ellis adds irrigation replacement will be significantly affected this year as there will be limited staff over the summer, but tree and flower planting will resume to normal numbers. Car lovers are set to showcase their beloved classic cars on June 27th in Coaldale. The Coaldale Custom Cruiser Show and Shine is entering its 20th year. Now, the group's president, Gary Clausen, says due to the pandemic, it's been challenging to find a time to run the event. But now they've been approved by Alberta Health Services.
We're going to have to divide the field in half because we're allowed 150 people per side. So last year we had 205 cars. That was our most cars we've ever had. So it's a great show. It's a good time. We have some good door prizes. We have some excellent trophies. What we do is we give 10 trophies for the top 10, and we give one to the club. And then we have one for hard luck, for somebody that's had a tough luck story coming to the show. There's no different categories or nothing. We have motorcycles, cars. We've even had semis come to the show.
Clausen adds, if you'd like to register your classic car, the fee is just $10. Make sure you mark your calendars. A Southern Alberta staple is coming back once again this year. Tabor Corn Fest will be going ahead starting August 26th through the 29th. Corn Fest has been running for 36 years and is the largest free family festival in Western Canada. Organizers say it was important to bring back the festival for the community after 16 months dealing with the pandemic. The Tabor Chamber of Commerce says almost all of the activities are being planned for this year.
We're going to have Corn Fest again. I've been working with Alberta Health Services, and we're planning to do everything that we've done before. We'll have the parade, the farmers market on Thursday night, the beer gardens, the Wild Rose shows will be doing their midnight wristband night Thursday. We're looking at pancake breakfasts on both Friday and Saturday morning. We have our car show on Saturday. We also have Friday night our Bolorama with Myers Norris Penny. It's free admission to come watch the bull riders.
Also on the list of activities will be multiple concerts, a BMX biking show, and Pure Power Wrestling. Alberta's COVID-19 mask rules will not be completely gone by July 1st. Dr. Dina Henshaw, Chief Medical Officer of Health, says some rules will remain in place after the mask mandate in indoor places lifts on Canada Day. She says mask wearing will continue in taxis, on public transit, and continuing care and acute care settings. Calgary will have its mask mandate in place until July 5th, and Edmonton will make a final decision on its policy on Friday. No word yet on if or when Lethbridge City Council will consider repealing its citywide face-covering bylaw. BC Premier John Horgan says better days are within reach, but still extended the state of emergency for the province. Officials did say, however, that it may be cancelled before July 6th if BC continues to see solid progress on case numbers, hospitalizations, and vaccination rates. It means police and peace officers will continue to issue tickets to those found violating public health orders. Dr. Bonnie Henry is encouraging British Columbians to receive their COVID-19 vaccinations, but admits that even after receiving the jab, there's no guarantee that you won't get the virus.
To the end of May, the rates of disease we were seeing in people who are unvaccinated was about 86 per 100,000 people. After dose 1, that went down to about 29 per 100,000, and a week after dose 2 is a 15 per 100,000. So really an 80% decrease in risk after having your 2 doses of vaccine. But it's not zero, and we have seen about 2,000, I think it was 2,620 cases after dose 1 where people became infected, and we had 268 people hospitalized and 65 deaths.
The Saskatchewan Health Authority is turning to Moderna to address a shortfall in COVID-19 vaccines. The agency says the change is because of a delay in the shipment of Pfizer vaccine that was expected this week. Many adults in the province will be rolling up their sleeves for a Moderna shot. The health authority says the Pfizer-Moderna vaccines can be safely substituted for each other. It does say, however, those aged 12 to 17 who had booked an appointment for a Pfizer jab will be contacted to talk about other options. As we reported on Bridge City News, Bill C-6 has passed in the House of Commons. It's a bill that would amend the criminal code to ban conversion therapy. It would ban advertising or collecting money for the practice. It would also make it illegal to force a young person to undergo conversion therapy. Political reporter Brian Lilly says even though the bill is passed, there's still a lot of confusion surrounding this very sensitive subject.
My big fear is that, especially within families who will be dealing with these issues, and this touches on an awful lot of families, that everyone will be on edge. No one will know what to say. No one will know what to do. And a big part of the people, the 63 people that voted nay on this, were MPs saying we need to tighten up the definitions here. We need to not have vague definitions of what you're talking about.
Mr. Lilly will also discuss the passage of Bill C-10, which may force you to watch even more Canadian content on various video platforms. That interview is coming up after business news. Ontario will be spending $1 million a year on specialized mental health and addiction services for kids and youth in the northwestern part of the province. The plan is part of a pledge to spend $3.8 billion on mental health over the next 10 years. Nearly half of the annual spending will go to community-based organizations that provide mental health and addiction services. Residents in a small town in Quebec are still reeling after a tornado tore through their neighborhood. One man was killed and close to 100 buildings were damaged by the twister.
I was with my neighbor to build like a little bridge to cross over there, and we placed 3 pieces, and we look on that direction and we see tornadoes. But when we realize instead to go directly on the house, we stay outside. So when it come too fast. We don't have time to do nothing. I lost my friend. He go on this way, and I go in my home, and I just time to go inside, just time to close the door. I'm very, very lucky. I know him since 30 years, and a very, very good friend. Good family too. I know her wife, her kids, and all the family. I saw her wife yesterday, but now I don't have. She told me yesterday, I want to die. 43 years together, and it's broke all the family. Eh?
Well, closer to home, some areas here in southwestern Alberta had a little bit of moisture today, and that will continue for the short term before we return to more scorching hot temperatures. Complete weather details are coming up. We had some light showers in certain areas of southwestern Alberta today. Jeanette Rocher is back with a complete look at the forecast. Jeanette, the cooling off period won't last long, as we'll be back to the hot temperatures once again soon. In fact, I looked on the Environment Canada website and took a peek at next week, and it's calling for temperatures close to 40.
Yeah, we're talking 36 and 37 degrees by next Monday and Tuesday. So if that happens, we're looking at record-breaking temperatures, absolutely. Until then, though, we're looking at a 60% chance of showers this evening into tomorrow as well, Thursday. 6% chance of showers. We could see a risk of a thunderstorm as well. 21 degrees is our high for tomorrow, and then back up to 26 and lots of sunshine for Saturday. Beautiful weekend, Saturday and Sunday sunshine, 31 degrees for both Saturday and Sunday. And then, like I was saying, all the way up to 36 and 37 for next Monday and Tuesday under sunny skies. So we will have to keep an eye out for that to see if we're going to be breaking any records. Now, the average high for this time of year, 23 degrees, well above that. 9 degrees is our average low. 38 was our high temperature in 1941. And back in 1967, we had our lowest, which was 2 degrees. 5:24 is when the sun woke up this morning, and our sunset this evening, 9:43 p.m. So still in those long, long days of summer, loving it. Over on the West Coast, look at lots of sunshine there. 24 degrees, the high for Victoria, 23 for Vancouver, 24 also the high tomorrow in Edmonton with a mix of sun and clouds. Should be clearing a little bit more in the afternoon though. Calgary could be looking at some showers tomorrow and a risk of a thunderstorm as well, with a high of only 20 degrees tomorrow. As we look to the rest of the prairies, in Saskatoon's high, 25 with a mix of sun and cloud, 24 the high in Regina, looking at some shower activity there, 28 the high in Winnipeg under mainly a sunny sky. So should be a beautiful hot one in Winnipeg tomorrow. A little bit windy over here in the central area of the country. We're looking at 20 to 40 kilometer per hour wind gusts in all three of these cities, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal. Lots of sunshine though. Toronto high 27 in Ottawa as well, and 28 degrees the high for Montreal. As we look to Fredericton, Halifax, and Charlottetown, we're seeing beautiful temperatures, lots of sunshine there. 25 in Fredericton, 24 in Halifax, 23 the high in Charlottetown, 22 the high in St. John's, Newfoundland with a mix of sun and clouds. So there you have it. That is your forecast.
Today's weather is brought to you by Jeff Reimer of Royal LePage South Country Real Estates, 403-380-1779.
Betting on single games of football, hockey, or other sports is about to become legal in Canada. The Senate approved Bill C-218 on Tuesday. The legislation amends criminal code provisions around gambling on single sports games, which is currently illegal except for horse racing. It marks the third time a potential law with the same goal has made its way through Parliament, but never this far. The bill now awaits royal assent to officially become law. Empire is reporting a drop in sales in its fourth quarter compared with the grocery shopping bonanza that marked the start of the pandemic. The owner of Sobeys, Safeway, and Freshco says same-store sales dropped 4.5% over the previous year. Overall sales totaled $6.92 billion for the quarter ending May 1st. That is down close to $1 million from a year earlier. Empire says its profit slipped 3.3% to just under $172 million as it paid out $9 million in lockdown bonuses, more than double the original estimate. The grocer says it will boost its quarterly dividend to 15 cents per share, up from 13 cents. Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was down 36 points on the day to finish at 20,164. The Dow was down 71 points to 33,874. The S&P 500 was down 4 points to 4241, and the Nasdaq was up 18 points on the day to 14,271. West Texas Intermediate Oil was up 23 cents to 73.08 US per barrel. Natural gas was up 8 cents to 3.33 US. Gold was up 4 cents to 17.7871 US an ounce, and silver was even at 25.89 US an ounce. Wheat is at $340 per metric ton. Barley is also at $340. Canola is at $7.29, and corn is at $398 per metric ton. Live cattle were down 60 cents to 122.50. Feeder cattle were down 265 to 155.70, and lean hogs were down $3 to 104.53. The Canadian dollar was even over the past 24 hours at 81.26 US. Recapping one of our top stories this hour, the Alberta government made a funding announcement today to support research into unmarked burial sites and undocumented deaths at residential schools in our province. Premier Jason Kenney says $8 million will go towards supporting the initiative. Individual applications can each receive up to $150,000. Applications will be accepted until January 15th of next year. Two big bills recently passed in Parliament. They're Bill C-10, or the bill which many Conservatives refer to as the attack on free speech, and Bill C-6, which amends the criminal code to include conversion therapy. What will those bills mean for you? Political reporter Brian Lilly will explain in just a moment. The Trudeau Liberals announced that they'll be rolling back some border restrictions. Now, to talk about this in a little more detail is political reporter and one of our regular contributors, Mr. Brian Lilly. Brian, you say that these are rules our Prime Minister and his friends already do not follow?
Well, what Justin Trudeau has said will do for you little people is that if you are fully vaccinated, then as of July 6th, not July 5th, as of July 6th, you won't have to quarantine in a hotel. Now, the government announced that it will take place on July 5th, but it doesn't come into effect until July 5th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, which means you better be catching an international flight into Calgary for those last 2 hours before it takes effect, or into Vancouver for those last 3 hours. Very few people are going to be doing that. So yeah, July 6th is when it takes effect. You don't have to go to the quarantine hotel. You don't have to quarantine at home. But here's the thing. Let's say that you are two adults, parents or grandparents traveling with a child. Guess what? The child has to quarantine if they're not fully vaccinated. There are very few children who are fully vaccinated. In fact, there's very few people of parental age who are fully vaccinated. There's a few, but not a lot. So it's still kind of an impediment to travel. So all of this is going on at the same time as Justin Trudeau has just come back from Europe. He's holding news conferences on his front steps with people standing feet away from him. He didn't go into the government mandated quarantine hotel. He didn't follow all of the rules that he sets out for others. And I want to point this out because I know you're a hockey fan, Hal. I know you're still smarting from the fact that the Calgary Flames didn't get through. But who was at the Habs Vegas Golden Knights game on last Friday night in Montreal? NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman. Why does that matter? Gary Bettman lives in New York. He flew in. He's treated just like the players. So, there's rules for thee and rules for me. And if you are in favor, if you're a favored person of the Trudeau government, then you don't have to follow these rules, be it the PM, be it Gary Bettman, be it others. But for the rest of us, we're going to have to continue to deal with these border restrictions and border rules that even his expert panel said shouldn't be in place for quite some time.
Do we even know if Gary Bettman has been vaccinated? Even his first
I'm going to
shot?
guess that he lives in New York City, or at least in that area. He works in New York City. You know, he works within that region. They've definitely have enough vaccines there for him. You know, especially given his age, given his status, he would definitely be someone who, if he wanted to be, was double vaccinated. But you know, right now, a double vaccinated Canadian coming back from, you know, if there's still a few straggling snowbirds coming back, they've got to go to the quarantine hotel. Then they can go home, and they've still got to quarantine for 14 days. Gary Bettman flew into Montreal, went straight to the Bell Center to watch the game where Montreal beat Vegas. Well, now it's tied.
And Ottawa is under pressure to release guidelines on what fully vaccinated Canadians can do. Right now, we have around 75% of Canadians over the age of 12 with one shot and around, 25% fully vaccinated.
Yeah, that's higher than I thought it would have been at this point. So things are moving along at a good clip. But, you know, when it comes to federal guidelines, the Trudeau government is not putting them out, not from the Public Health Agency of Canada, not from NACI, the National Advisory Committee on Immunization, which confuses everyone by coming up with new rules all the time on what vaccines work, which ones don't, and basically frustrating the system. But in some ways, I'm not bothered by this. In the United States, the Centers for Disease Control have come out with federal guidelines. But the United States works much the same as we do. The federal government's not in charge of things like healthcare. That's the state level. So down there, they've put out guidelines, and then states decide, do we want to follow them? Do we not? Do we use them as kind of a broad stroke idea of what to do? But there's no need for the state to follow them. Here in Canada, it's the same thing. It's the provinces that provide healthcare. So it's up to each and every province. And you'll notice that what you guys are going to open up on July 1st in Alberta and drop all COVID-19 restrictions. In neighboring Saskatchewan, it's July 11th. I don't know when that's going to happen in Ontario. We're still having local medical officers of health say that we need to keep restrictions in place for some time. I think they've extended the mask mandate here in Toronto until sometime in September at the least. So, you know, there's all these different local things going on, but that is how our system is set up. I don't know that we need the federal government getting involved and confusing a system that already has too many cooks in the kitchen already.
And there's still lots of questions surrounding the origins of COVID-19, and lots of eyes are still on the Wuhan Institute of Virology. But Brian, there's a Canadian connection there. Tell me more.
Yeah, the Canadian connection is that there were a couple of scientists who, long before COVID started, about a year before, were marched out of the National Microbiology Lab in Winnipeg. This is our top lab. It's one of the few in the world that have the type of classification that is required to handle very sensitive viruses, the worst pathogens known to man, the type of thing that you don't want to escape, because if these viruses, if these pathogens escape, there can be horrible consequences. Well, some of the scientists working there had been cooperating with the Wuhan Institute of Virology. That in itself is not a bad thing. Everyone involved in communicable diseases, especially respiratory diseases, wants to be working with China because whether it be SARS, MERS, or COVID, you know, the thinking has been the next big thing is going to come out of China. We need to be working with them to know what's coming. Hasn't quite worked out, but that has been the thinking. Well, back in January 2019, a couple of scientists and several students were marched out. They had previously sent samples of the Ebola virus and the Hepna virus, which is also found in bats, to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. MPs in the House of Commons had voted to say several times, twice at committee and then once within the full House of Commons, you need to send us the information on why these people were fired. We need the full unredacted documents. The Public Health Agency of Canada said no. They said no several times. They refused to release the information. They say, well, we have to follow the law. there's no greater law than following an order of Parliament. But they said no. So Ian Stewart, who is the president of the Public Health Agency, was called to the bar, which is that hasn't happened for a civilian since 1913, where he was admonished by the speaker and told, you need to do this. He still refused to do it. MPs are now considering their next steps, which could include sending the Sergeant of Arms to search the Public Health Agency of Canada for those records.
Brian, we've chatted quite a bit about Bill C-10, which many feel is an attack on our freedom of speech and the Liberals' attempt to regulate the internet. Now, the bill passed this week in the middle of the night. Brian, why should the average Canadian internet user be concerned right now?
I think you got to be concerned about any bill that passes at 1:30 in the morning. That's when it passed, Tuesday morning. They'd been sitting since 11 a.m. on Monday morning, and they finished the session shortly after 1:30 when they passed Bill C-10. This is the bill. It's called a bill to, update the Broadcasting Act. Well, really, it's about regulating the internet, Hal, and it gives expansive powers to the CRTC, the broadcast regulator. It will allow the CRTC to go in and play with the algorithms that are used by Instagram or TikTok or Twitter or Facebook. Pick your favorite social media platform. So let's say that you have been watching a lot of videos on, I don't know, handyman stuff or music or whatever on your favorite platform. If the government decides they're not Canadian enough, they will start inserting Canadian content in there to try and make you discover Canadian content. Now, you could actually be watching all Canadian content. You could be watching your favorite Canadian handyman, your favorite Canadian exercise class leader, all of these things. Canadians are very successful, very popular on these platforms. But if they're not approved by the government, if they haven't applied for a grant, if they're not seen as Canadian enough, well, then that's not good enough, and the government's going to insert themselves into your Instagram feed, your TikTok feed, whatever. I don't think that's what most Canadians want. That's what the government's trying to do. They're also going to make those people subject to CRTC regulation. So suddenly someone that has a popular exercise YouTube channel is going to be treated as if they're CTV or Global or Miracle Channel. Take your pick. They're going to be subjected to the same regulations. That's what the internet was supposed to not be about. The Liberals say it's about making web giants pay. No, it's about taking money out of the system, rewarding their friends, and controlling the internet in the way that few other, if any other democracies have actually attempted to do.
You reminded me when I worked as a jock in radio for many years across the country, when all of our music had to be 33% Canadian content. So you'd sneak in the Anne Murrays and the Gordon Lightfoots and maybe some April Wine, whatever. You'd always get that in there.
Well, do you remember the Bryan Adams album that was determined not to be Canadian content because he didn't have enough Canadians working in key positions? Even though he and a lot of his band members were Canadian.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Now, Brian, Bill C-6, which would ban conversion therapy in Canada, passed in the House of Commons. I believe the vote was 263 yeas to 63 nays, and most of the nays came from the Conservative side of the House. What will this mean now for Canadians?
It's going to be a very slippery slope for families who are dealing with issues of gender identity, gender fluidity, families dealing with any of these questions, because it's going to put families on edge. Now, look, the claim from the government is this is to stop, people from forcing those who are gay or lesbian to being straight. That you shouldn't be able to force somebody into these things. Well, I think a lot of people would look at that and say, yeah, you shouldn't do that. But okay, does that mean that a parent or a pastor or anybody else shouldn't say, are you sure? Are you sure? It could be a question that could land you in hot water given this bill's passage. I doubt it's going to get very much pushback in the Senate. I think Bill C-10 might, but this bill will get very little pushback in the Senate. This is going to cause an awful lot of division within families, within religious groups. It will put everyone on edge because no one will know for quite some time what can be said, what can't be said. I don't think there are very many people out there that want to force somebody to be someone they're not. But there's also a big difference between that and asking questions or offering alternatives in a loving way.
Well, I was going to
this
ask you, how
bill
about potential counseling services for somebody who may be seeking and searching? You know, you're not forcing it upon the person, but this is available should they so choose to go down that path. Will that be readily available, or is that over now too?
that is pretty much going to be over now under this, and so you know, it's going to leave everyone with a lot of questions for the next while, Hal, until we see how this plays out in terms of the courts. But my big fear is that, you know, especially within families who will be dealing with these issues, and this touches on an awful lot of families, that you're going to be, everyone will be on edge. No one will know what to say. No one will know what to do. And a big part of the people, the 63 people that voted nay on this, were MPs saying we need to tighten up the definitions here. We need to not have vague definitions of what you're talking about. People like Garnet Jennis are, you know, Garnet Jennis is not a hateful man. He's not someone who was trying to, you know, to use a term that the Liberals will throw away. Well, you just want to pray the gay away, you know, and they make everyone who's against this out to be hateful. That's not what Garnet Jennis is talking about. But he is talking about saying, can we have definitive terms on what this means, what that means? Can we know what we're talking about so that people are not left in the breach? And unfortunately, that didn't happen here.
Brian, from what you've seen coming out of Ottawa lately, are we getting any closer to a federal election?
Well, I don't know when the date will be, but the language, especially from the Prime Minister this week, is definitely one of someone trying to set up an election. You know, I was wrong. You know, as we discussed last week, I thought that there would be a spring election, either on June 7th or June 14th would be voting days, and that didn't happen. But this week, the Prime Minister has been attacking the Conservatives on Bill C6, on Bill C10, on the budget implementation bill, saying that they're being obstructionist. Why? Because they won't vote for him. He's got the NDP, the Bloc, and the small gaggle of Green MPs voting with him. He doesn't need the Conservatives, but he's attacking the Conservatives, saying they're blocking this bill, they're blocking that bill, they're being obstructionist. Look, I've seen this play out before. I saw it play out with Stephen Harper. I saw it play out with Paul Martin in minority situations. This is how a government sets it up, that we need another mandate. Justin Trudeau's following the playbook on that. Does that mean that we're going to see a vote called this summer, or will we see it later in the fall? I don't know. I have heard some Liberal pundits say they think that we'll be into an election by early August with a vote sometime in September. Others are saying we won't see voting day before October 25th. Why does that matter, Hal? That's the first Monday after all the MPs that were elected in 2015 qualify for their 6-year pension. By the way, it's not a giant pension after 6 years. I don't want everyone thinking people are walking away with a $100,000 a year pension. It is prorated by how many years you've been in, but you do get a small pension after 6 years, and it grows by your length of service after that.
Political reporter and Toronto Sun columnist Brian Lilley, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you, Hal.
The province's Open for Summer plan is well underway, including patios being reopened at restaurants once again. So nice to see that, enjoying the sunshine. Premier Jason Kenney says if the COVID-19 numbers continue to decline, which we've seen a lot of lately, and more Albertans are vaccinated, we can fully reopen by July. Now, what will that look like for the city of Lethbridge? To talk about this in more detail is Lethbridge Mayor Chris Spearman. Chris, welcome back to Bridge City News.
Great to be here, Hal.
Now, first of all, let's talk about Canada Day. Big party. We're celebrating our country's birthday once again. Is there enough time for the city to plan a bit of a celebration?
In a word, no. We won't be able to host the big party that we usually have at Henderson Lake Park, and we won't be able to host the fireworks in the evening where we've had 5,000 people. Those events take some lengthy planning and also ordering of supplies. Right now, we're just encouraging people to participate at home. They can order a barbecue in a box from the Interfaith Food Bank until June the 25th and have that on Canada Day. They can attend the Indigenous events at the Yates on June the 27th. There will be a series of things that are put on by community groups where people can be safe and spread out and still participate in celebrations that they choose.
Now, how about Whoop Up Days? Have you talked to the folks at the X? I mean, it sounds like the Calgary Stampede is a go in a reduced capacity. How about our festival?
Well, it will be a challenge this year, Hal, because of the construction that's happening for the Agri-Food Hub. And having construction on site and having several thousand people would be a challenge. I think additionally, we're looking at using a touring company that generally comes through the States with people who maybe with that who may need special clearance, and that would take additional planning. Generally, it's up to the Lethbridge Exhibition to organize that, but I think they've got a lot on their plate this year, and we might be celebrating differently.
Now, Council recently voted 5-4 to not repeal the mandatory face covering bylaw. Let me ask you something. Why keep the masks on when much of the province is reopening, especially with case counts coming down here in the South Zone and close to 70% of Albertans being vaccinated? Why cover up?
Well, Lethbridge is a service center. We're a hub. And while the numbers are impressive for Lethbridge, the areas around us are not really, they're about 50% as successful as the city of Lethbridge. So we're seeing vaccine take-ups in the 30% level. Now, those people are coming into Lethbridge, they're buying things, they're involved in our community, attending our retail stores. We've got frontline workers who would be exposed to them. These people may not be vaccinated at all, and they are least likely to wear masks. So that puts people at risk. And you have to remember there are people in the city of Lethbridge who have immune compromised situations. And we have young people, 12 years of age and younger, who will not be eligible for the vaccines. So, we have to take every precaution possible until we're sure, absolutely sure, that this pandemic is under control.
And you've had your jab, right? You want to show me the sweatshirt? Maybe show our viewers there at home?
Yeah, I've got, I've done it, and I'm happy to promote it to others. And I think it's the best way that I can return to a normal life. I'm looking forward to seeing my grandkids. I'm looking forward to traveling. And I have two of my kids live in other countries. And I'm hoping that by the fall or spring next year, I'll be able to have a more normal life. And I'm looking forward to that. And we're seeing now the signs that people who don't have vaccines may not be welcome in other countries, and their ability to function may be limited.
Now, Council voted unanimously recently to advance the Indigenous placemaking strategy a year ahead of schedule. Can you explain exactly what this is all about? And will this potentially mean maybe name changes to certain areas of the city, including Indian Battle Park?
Yes, when the 215 graves were discovered in Kamloops, and then subsequently there've been a couple of others, and there may be some in this area as well. Certainly, based on the stories we're hearing from the Blackfoot people, there certainly is a possibility that we will uncover some similar things. Having said that, we have to take a look at what we were planning to do anyway and say, well, maybe there needs to be greater urgency to that. We were going to have an assessment of the sensitivity of some names that we're using in the city of Lethbridge, and those may be up for discussion. So we've heard about Indian Battle Heights, we've heard about possibly Micmac Boulevard. What about Whoop Up Drive? We've got Indian Battle Park. So I think what we need to have is a consultation process. I don't think we want to jump into any quick fixes. We want to make sure that any solutions that we come up with, we do in collaboration with the Blackfoot people in this area. So that process will begin. We'll identify some of the areas that need to be looked at and some of the names that need to be looked at, and have a community conversation about how do we go forward from here.
Now, there are many business owners who've had to close their doors for good during the pandemic and the lockdowns. Tell me about some of those business owners and families you've spoken to who've been severely impacted very hard during the COVID-19 pandemic. Their livelihoods are gone.
Yeah, we hope that their livelihoods will come back. I was very concerned that they didn't receive the provincial supports and funding and federal funding supports that they needed. And we heard about Mocha Cabana being disqualified from receiving federal funding. I thought, wow, that's a big problem. We mainly restaurants, fitness facilities, of course. Fitness facilities were going great guns, in our city. People were really into fitness, and then COVID hit. I think in the last 3 years, the number of new businesses that started out that were fitness related were phenomenal. And of course, that's a big investment, and people had leases, those types of things. And it's been a big challenge for both restaurants and fitness facilities and many others. So these are people in our community. I hope that we can get back to normal and we can do that safely so that these businesses can open and stay open.
Alberta Justice Minister Casey Medu said there were some deficiencies with the plan put forward by Lethbridge Police Chief Shaheen Medizadeh to clean up the Lethbridge Police Force. Now, have you spoken with the chief about what some of these potential deficiencies are?
I have to be very careful because elected politicians cannot direct the police. So we have a police commission whose prime responsibility is to oversee the response. I fully support the police chief. I believe that he is a very honorable man. He's very well intentioned. He's very well qualified, and he has over 30 years experience with the RCMP before coming to the city of Lethbridge. So this is someone looking at Lethbridge Police Services with fresh eyes. I don't think we could have a better person doing the job. I think some of the processes that we're dealing with, and I was frustrated when I was a member of the police commission, that there were many cases that took so long to resolve. And I think the public's frustrated with that as well, that an incident occurs and it takes a year and a half or so to actually come to a resolution. And what we have is a process, it's a provincial process, which has a bottleneck. And these cases are not being handled effectively and efficiently, in my opinion. But I understand due process, and it's a quasi-legal process. And often anyone who has been accused of not doing the job the way they were supposed to, perhaps even breaking the law themselves, is entitled to legal representation. And we all know that legal cases take a long time, and the cases have to be prepared appropriately. So that does create frustrations. In terms of the culture, our Minister of Justice suggested that there was a cultural issue at the Lethbridge Police Services, and I believe that the Chief of Police is addressing that. He's making sure that people have the appropriate training and that those training programs are in place to ensure that people are aware of what they should and should not do. So I believe the police chief, Chief Medezadeh, is doing a great job in terms of responding. And if there's some additional information that the Minister of Justice requires, I'm sure the police chief and the police commission will supply it.
Now, we keep hearing instances of more and more drug houses popping up in our city, then shut down by SCAN and the Alberta Sheriffs. But then a week later, another one pops up maybe a few houses down the road. What's being done to end this vicious cycle?
Well, it does depend a lot on neighborhoods and neighborhood cooperating with the SCAN unit. We've always advocated for more resources in the city of Lethbridge, including having a permanent SCAN unit in Lethbridge. The SCAN unit generally comes down from Calgary and comes down on an occasional basis when they have enough evidence, and it can take 6 months to 12 months to gather enough information to shut down a drug house. So to have them shut down and have another one pop up 2 blocks away within a week is frustrating. But the only way to solve that is to have ongoing resources right here in the city of Lethbridge, where drug houses are addressed on a constant basis. And there's a regular presence of SCAN in the city itself.
Now let's talk about something a little more positive here. Have you had a chance to take in the farmers market at Lethbridge Exhibition Park? Is it busy? Are people happy that it's finally back?
I think people were a little bit nervous at the beginning, and they went out of their way to post regulations and what people had to do. They made it very clear with the signing, and I think that the farmers market is another fun event that people can attend in order to make use of local vendors and support the local economy. So yeah, I'm thrilled to support the farmers market, and it always was a social thing for me, and I always have to be a little bit careful. I have to set an example as well that I just can't go up and converse people up, with people 2 feet away from their face anymore, or hug people that I see. So it's a little bit of a different experience, and I'm hoping that one day we can get back to the way things were.
Now let's talk a bit about the Agri-Food Hub and Trade Center, which you touched on earlier here at Exhibition Park. How's it coming along so far with the construction? And is it on budget?
It's early days, and I know that there are struggles with supplies. Maintaining construction schedules is going to be challenging as we recover. We're seeing significant inflation in terms of some supplies, steel and lumber. And we hope that these things can be managed. And sometimes, in order to manage costs, what you have to do is accept delivery delays. So this potentially could take longer than we anticipate, but I know they're doing their best to manage and contain the costs as well as keep it on budget. But this is a situation that's being managed all over North America right now.
Well, you know what? I agree. I mean, I'm rebuilding my mother's deck right now. The cost of lumber is 4 times the price that it was last year. Even a sheet of plywood is over $200 now. It's just 4x8 sheet of plywood. It's incredible. Lethbridge Transit, let's talk a bit about that here for a moment, launched its new CityLink network. Explain what that will really mean for transit riders here in our city.
Well, what we want to do is find creative ways of identifying efficiencies in transit. So the big challenge we have is we're basically subsidizing transit by about 90 cents on the dollar. So how do we be fair to people who rely on transit as their only means of transportation? So many people who drive cars every day say, whoa, we're just subsidizing transit. It's just not worth it. But if transit is your only means of transportation, we have to make sure that those citizens have a quality of life. And it's not as convenient. They can't jump in a car and go to Costco or go to Walmart. They have to follow the bus schedule. It takes them 2 or 3 times as long as anybody in a car. But that's their way of life. There are people who are visually impaired, for example, who rely on the buses. It's important to make sure that we include and accommodate everybody in the city, and it has to be affordable as well. So it's who we are as a city. So the new programs are, what can we do to find efficiencies? How can we have main routes which are more common in terms of access, and how can we use less frequent routes to allow people to access the bus from outlying areas or extended areas within residential subdivisions? So we're trying to draw a balance there, trying to do some new things. We've got new people in transit looking at new plans, and we're hoping to create efficiencies up to $350,000 and provide some benefits to taxpayers while not undermining the service to those who need it.
Now that the weather is finally warming up, we may begin seeing more of our homeless and the homeless issue here in our city. What's the city doing to address the homeless issue here in Lethbridge? And explain perhaps how you're working with nonprofits such as Streets Alive and the food banks to help those most vulnerable.
Well, we tried to reallocate the funding that we were providing to a whole variety of organizations in the past. So last fall, we reallocated $6 million, and we tried to target areas that would possibly have the most success in addressing the social issues in the city. While that's occurring, we've also formed a community well-being and safety strategy, and we're getting input and getting assistance with where should certain services go. How should we address that going forward in the future? The accusation has been the city has no plan. And I'm sympathetic to hearing that. Whenever we've tried to move forward or an organization has tried to move forward, it's met with resistance from neighborhoods. So how do we provide the services? Where do they go? And rather than having the politicians trying to come up with solutions, we're now involving community groups in what those solutions might look like. And I think as the process has begun, many people who thought the solutions were simple are now understanding that they're a lot more complex than they thought they were. So I look forward to people who are directly involved and have a passion for this, helping us come forward with the solutions that we need to implement going forward to address this serious issue in our city.
Yeah, no easy answers, absolutely. Lethbridge Mayor Chris Spearman, thanks so much for your time today.
Well, it's always been a pleasure. Hal, we're running out of times to meet. I got maybe 3 more. So I've always enjoyed it and look forward to talking with you again through the summer and up until the municipal election.
On behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless, and thanks so much for watching.